It's the Rangers Journal Night.
Hello and welcome everyone to your Friday news show. My name is Billy Rankin and we're going to be looking over all the news that's happened in the last week in the world of Rangers. So I'm not doing that alone as usual. I'm joined by Billy, my namesake. How are you, Billy?
Yeah, good. It's Friday, more football, a chance to sort of cleanse the palate after that horror show in midweek.
And I'm sure you will talk about that as well. Chris, welcome aboard as well, mate.
Thank you for having me, Billy. Looking forward to some good discussions and what maybe we're coming up for Rangers in the next few days.
Yep, me too. So breaking news today, really, Billy. I'm going to go through two stories initially, but the first one is it looks like Ben Davies is going to be out the door. Unfortunately, not on a permanent deal. His contract ends next year. So it looks like he's going to be going on a loan to Oxford for the season, and that will be hopefully his time up at us. It's an awful lot of money we're paying him a week, apparently between 27 and 30 grand a week. So who knows how much Oxford are going to be paying for that, but it's just good to get him out the door.
Ben Davies, ever since he arrived, he looks like a football player pretty much until he starts playing football. And then he looks like someone who basically wants to have a nicely paid career, not do any injury to those good looks and kind of basically stroll about. We thought we'd want to watch when it sounded like Birmingham were going to take Ben Davies and Kieran Dowell and they were totally in love with them and they'd done so well and we were going to get millions. We all were thinking, great, that's how the loan system's supposed to work. You know, we put these guys out for a year. They were unsellable at the start of last season. Now we were going to get some money for them. But as the close season's gone on, it looks like other people kind of rate Ben Davies the way we do. And I don't know if Birmingham were just blowing smoke or what, but the fact that even after what was a relatively successful season, I think he started 40 times in a season where they got promotion, people just don't want to pay money for him. And he looks like one of those guys who, within the game, very quickly, people they thought he was going to be able to sort of like improve and become a much better player. And very quickly, people went, "No, this is it." And you know, he got the move. He got the move to us, and then since then, nobody wants him. I mean, like, experienced centre halves who can play are in demand, but Ben Davies isn't, and nobody wants to pay for him. And it's one that leaves a bit of a bitter taste in the mouth because I think one of the reasons Ben Davies hasn't got a move is Ben Davies. I don't think he extends himself particularly. I think at Rangers he just looked like he just wanted to stroll about. He's gone down a couple of levels and looked like a player 2 levels down. So you were hoping maybe someone would plump a couple of £1 million for him and take him off our hands, but he's just, you know, for what he looks like and the assets he's got, nobody seems that interested in having him. It will be good to have him out the door because I just, candidly, he just annoys me, the sight of him. Like, you know, it's like he's not done anything for us. He's not going to do anything for us except take lots of money out, and that's not his fault. We signed him, we gave him the contract, but I think in terms of the squad and everything, it'll be good to have him out the door. I really hope that Oxford are paying that wage or at least a big chunk of it. But, you know, some players you're happy to see go with best wishes. I don't wish him ill, but I'm just happy to see him go.
Chris, the loan spell he had with Birmingham, as Billy was saying, seems to have been very successful. It was almost a given that they were going to come in and buy him. I don't know if it's his wage demands. He's not going to maybe get the same down there, which surprises me actually. But I mean, it wasn't just Oxford in for him. Apparently Queen's Park Rangers were in for him as well. For me, all I remember is him managing to keep a ball in that was going out at Parkhead, and 10 seconds later the ball, not even 10 seconds, a few seconds later the ball's in the back of the net. It's incredibly naive defending at best. Him and I'm forgetting never mind, I'm not going to go into that one. I forgot his name. Dowell, yeah, him and Dowell just look like these lackadaisical guys that have never played football. When he's been here, he looked very much the lower league English defender that he probably actually is. But I guess you're glad to see him out the door as well.
Billy. Like I say, he's not there yet, so I've not got the bunting and the celebrations up yet. But we'll when that happens. I think. Look, it's a tough one because see when he came to Rangers, I think everyone thought when he came to Rangers, this guy could actually do quite well for us. He had a really good pedigree beforehand. He looked okay, Sheffield United, and he was okay in some of the friendly games. I think he played for Liverpool at the time as well. So I think he played a couple of cup games for them as well. So he actually had a not bad pedigree before he came to us. But I think he's one of those players who, similar to other English players who come up from those divisions and they think they can come into this league and stroll it, and very, very quickly we found out he wasn't up to the speed with it. And probably that surprises some of these players that come up from England, I think, as well, Billy, if I'm being honest, because I think they look at the Scottish game as it's not as good as what it actually they make it out to be. And then when they come here, they get a bit of a shock. It's fast football, there's hard tackles going in, and some of these guys just can't adapt to that. And I think Ben Davies is one of them. I'm struggling to remember his best game for us. I think I would probably say scored in a game against Real Betis at home in the Europa League a couple of seasons back. That's maybe the best game I've seen him in for Rangers. Other than that, I can't put a finger on and say he's had a good game for us. So for Rangers, I think getting him off the wage bill is huge, especially given the rumoured salary that he's on at the moment. I think that's fantastic. Again, you've just got to hope that Oxford are going to pay that amount and take him and fully cover his wages rather than maybe half of it or a quarter of it, or whatever it normally is in these circumstances. But the fact he's out of contract in 12 months, you would assume Oxford are going to take on most of his wages between now and the end of the season. I think you're right. Birmingham looked to have him signed, sealed and delivered. I think we were driving him to the airport at one point in time and we were saying goodbye and things, and then obviously that's just fallen by the wayside. I just wish Michael Beale was in a management position at the moment. He could have taken Dowell and Ben Davies away from us at some point, but that's another story for another day. But out the door, it's not worked for him or Rangers, and I think we wish the guy no harm, but time to move on and go somewhere else. And I think Rangers will be better off for it going forward. And probably Ben Davies, 30 years old. He could come up against Birmingham in his first game with Oxford if that's all done and dusted. So that would be a really good turnaround for him. So let's see how it progresses and good luck to him going forward, I would say.
Billy, there was a kind of, I was just talking on Chris's point, there is a kind of shock to some of these players coming up from England. I don't know if it's the physicality. They seem to do better in Europe, at least. Not saying he was, fantastic, but his better games were in Europe. What is it about the Scottish game you think that they can't really get to grips with?
Well, first off, just briefly to touch on a point Mark Dewey was making in the comments. Dewey. Sorry if I'm getting your name wrong there, Mark. But he was saying that Ben Davies had some challenges on the sort of family front that he had to contend with when he arrived. Now, if that's the case, then obviously this is a week where we've all been reminded that football's just 22 guys chasing a leather balloon around and that there are much more important things in terms of family. So understand if he's had things like that to deal with, that will affect your performance. Flip side of that is he's had a good run at having a go up here and he just hasn't looked up to it and he hasn't looked particularly motivated. To your point, Billy, I think it's a mixture of things. Like we kind of forget, Rangers to us is the pinnacle, and rightly so because of the history and the size of the club. But if you're a career footballer down in England, there is a sense, with Ben Davies, you've had the move to Liverpool, etc. Your career sort of it's not on the up when you head to Scotland, even if you're heading to a big club, because you've envisaged yourself playing in the EPL or the Championship. So I wonder if with some players, psychologically, whether it's they think they're going to coast up here or whether they feel that their career's not in a good place. I think for some players, there maybe is a sense of, I had my shot at the big time and now I'm going to try and sort of have a career, not get injured, put enough money away for a retirement. And I think that's an understandable mindset, but it's not going to make you like a combative centre half at Rangers. So I think there is a danger that some players come up here, they think they're going to stroll it and they don't, like Joey Barton. But you also, I think you have some players come up here maybe with just in the wrong place. That's why I think it's important that we're signing young, hungry players. guys who are coming up to Scotland as a step up, not as a step down, because they're motivated to get that moved, to kind of like try and get not to a bigger club, but to a bigger league. Whereas someone like Ben Davies, I'm not saying with him, but I think some players coming up here who've already had a bit of a senior career maybe think that they're going to be the big player here, or they're kind of doing us a favour. And I'm not saying this is the case with Ben Davies. I just suspect that with some senior pros coming up to Scotland, they see it as a step down. And that psychologically is not a good place to be. Like I said earlier, I think I'd rather see the kind of hungry players we're getting now who are seeing it as a step up and are moving forward rather than feel like their careers in a sort of stasis.
Chris, we'll move on because there's another player apparently going to be out the door as soon as maybe tomorrow even, and that's the much maligned Ridvan Yilmaz. He appears to be flying to Turkey today by all accounts and having a medical, and hopefully he'll go through. Can you give me any details? I think you were saying before we started you knew a couple of the figures and stuff.
Yeah, so the rumoured figure, so first of all, you're right, he's flying out to Istanbul today, we believe. He's due to land there just after 9 o'clock this evening. By all accounts, the deal's done. Obviously, medical pending on that one. That's the part that worries me, Billy, is the medical part, because he's never been fit for us. So you've got to hope that he gets through this medical and nothing shows up on it. The rumoured fee is around 3 million, which is including add-ons. I remember Rangers paid in the region of around 3 to 4 million for him, including add-ons when he came here. So we get some of that money back, which would be great. Look, I think the Ridvan one is a strange one for me because he came from Besiktas with a really, really good pedigree at the time, and everyone thought that this guy, could do a really good job for us. And I think the first couple of appearances, he didn't think he was anything bad. He was maybe okay, and he thought it was just taking time to settle in. And he's had some good games for us. He's had absolute honkers as well for us. So I think that it's been a bit of a mixed bag with him. It's a shame. Turkish international, 7 appearances for Turkey. Joined us, 2022? I think it was. Is when he came to Rangers. Times needs to part. He needs to go. I think the frustration for the Rangers fans with this one is he's just not been available, Billy, when we need him, and he seems to break down every time he goes into that park. You'll maybe get a game or two of him, and then he breaks down. And I think that's a real frustration for Rangers fans, because all they're asking for is someone to give their all and go and play and see how they got on. And this guy's been a real frustration from that perspective. And it is a shame because, as I said, if you look at this one on paper, if he wasn't at Rangers right now and he was at Besiktas and he was playing well, Turkish internationalist, you'd be saying maybe that's one that could come here and do a job. I think, again, similar to the Ben Davies situation, it's a good for all parties that he's off the wage book. And I would hope that with him going, and hopefully that's going to sign, sealed and delivered, I would hope that Rangers would be looking to put a wee bit more cover in there. With, obviously, I know we've got McComb in there, but I would be hoping to put a wee bit more experienced one in there and take some, whether it's we were talking the pod last night, whether it is a 23 to 25-year-old with a little bit more experience than Makoma, or whether it's a more older type player. I think some of the comments last night were mentioning people like Chilwell and things like that. So someone is going to come in and give us that wee bit of experience in that left back situation. I think we probably need that, especially when it goes to the bigger games and Ibrox against the rivals and things like that. I think we need that wee bit more experience in there, and hopefully that's something we can pull off pretty quickly.
Billy, he had it in, short bursts. I remember it. I think he got injured fairly early in a game, 10 minutes into a game at Ibrox, but he'd been actually running the show. And at the time, we were just desperate for someone to take over from Barisic, weren't we? But I guess his career has just stop-start, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I can't believe you said Barisic there, and I actually felt wistful for Borna. Borna was great when he was great, and towards the end, not so much. Ridvan is the definition of an enigma, because he even his highlight reel on YouTube from Rangers will probably have the Besiktas fans thinking, oh, he's done great, because you think about that fantastic solo goal against, was it Livingston, where he just ran and then just like hit it from the 18-yard line. So He showed flashes. I wonder, and it's in no way. I know people immediately sort of focused on his height when he came in because they thought in Scotland he'll get targeted. And to be honest, I remember him getting caught out early on in a game, but I don't really recall that being an issue. What I would say is I wonder if the physicality was such that he kept picking up those injuries, he kept breaking down. That meant he never really got a run in the team, and his performances were similarly erratic. So there were times where we thought, oh great, this is it. This is a player we thought we'd bought. This is the form we're hoping they'd show. It would last for a game or two, and then he would either get injured or go off a cliff again. So I don't know, it's felt like for a year or two that he was going back to Turkey. That was just the most likely outcome because he's rated there. He had a good time there. We love bringing back a player. I'm sure they do as well. And realistically, who's coming in for him from another league? Because he's come to Scotland, and at best you could say he's maybe looking like a homebody, one of those players that suits his own league. Maybe a wee bit of a Sam Lammer sort of character where he's grown up in a certain league. It suits him. He suits it. He tries it overseas and it's just not working. What I will say in Ridvan's defence is every manager that's come in has spoken positively about his attitude. You hear terms like warrior, and you think he's obviously in training, he's obviously putting it in, and it's not for the want of trying. So I wouldn't throw any shade in terms of the attitude there, but it just hasn't worked out. And it's another one where I think we'll just be happy to see him off the wage bill and go to Besiktas and undoubtedly play 50 games a season and win Player of the Year there.
I'll bring up this rumour, Chris. Alex Morono. I'm sorry, I'm not a big watcher of the EPL. I really just watch Rangers. Is that the kind of mould you'd be expecting? Someone with a bit more experience, someone a wee bit older?
I agree, yeah. And look, I think we were talking, was it 2 weeks ago? I think Alex Moreno's name had come up as a possibility for Rangers, and I think that was something that looked quite open to happen before Makoma came in. My understanding from Moreno is that he's off to Genoa on a free. I don't think that one's going to happen for Rangers. But it was certainly a rumour at the time that he could potentially be coming in. But I think as of yesterday, they were talking about this guy going to Genoa. But he is the type of player I think Rangers should be looking at. I think we need that wee bit more steel in the back line. I don't want it to be a loan, Billy. I think if we bring another loan player in that defence, given the amount of players that are going to be out of contract at the end of the season, and then obviously the loan players going back, we could be looking at building a whole new back five at the end of the season is the way it's playing out just now. So I think Rangers need to get someone in. They need to get someone in who is going to give them that steel that they need, but they also need someone in who's going to be here for 2-3 years, I think, just to try and give that backline a bit of a settle, because we've not had that with. I remember back, you had your likes of Borna, Goldson, Tav. Those were your back three there. With another defender, that was the days where Rangers, I think, were really settled at back. We went the winning league season, conceding the least amount of goals we've conceded in a long time, and that was because we had a settled back line. Not having that settled back line is tough, and we are conceding goals left, right, and centre at the moment. So we need something. And look, I'm probably giving Makoma a bit of a disservice here, because I thought the young lad played really well in midweek. I thought for his first game to come in, to get an assist as well for Danilo's goal. Really nice ball played across from the wing. I thought he done really well, and I don't really remember him getting caught out. The Bruges winger on that side was fast, and I thought Makoma kept up with him really well. So we're probably doing that guy a bit of a disservice. The challenge is of his age, I think, and will he be able to play all the games that we want him to play this season, and not cause any mistakes? It's going to be a tough one. So you need someone in there, I think, Billy, to be able to give him that backup and really just help him progress, because it's something Rangers badly need at this moment.
Well, as discussed before we started the pod, Billy, I have an appointment, so I'm going to duck out just now, but I'll leave the pod in your hands, and give me a text if you need any help with anything. But feel free to discuss, obviously, the other points of the news. But the last thing I was going to mention was Thelwell actually getting players out now. So I'll let you discuss that, and I'll catch up with you next week.
Excellent, Billy.
Enjoy the weekend. See you, Billy.
Yeah.
And then there were two. I'll pick up just in the point about getting players out, because I think it is. I think we were all quite excited about the start of the transfer window. We're getting all these young, exciting players in, and as the window's gone on, and I don't know about you, but I think most of us were expecting a big sale a la Raskin or Igaman.
Yeah.
It's starting to get a wee bit squeaky just now. It's starting to get to the stage where you're thinking, we need to sell someone. And I'd be interested in your thoughts, because I thought there was a bit of talk this week about Leo's attempt to get Igaman, which on the face of it was kind of counterintuitive and quite cheeky. This will take him for a year. We won't pay you a loan fee, no obligation or anything of the sort to buy. What do you think? And on the face of it, it's like we tell them to go do one. But I wonder if Lille are playing hardball, because what they're seeing here, specifically with Igaman, is I'm not sure Russell Martin fancies him for the style of play, because he was talking about him doing mad things after one game, where I think he's frustrated, Russell Martin, that he's not moving the ball on fast enough. He's trying to nutmeg someone when he wants it kind of played forward. I think there's that. And I think also teams are looking at us now going, you really need to get players out and off the wage bill. Do you think there's a danger now that actually our transfer position has become a little bit weaker and that teams might be looking to take advantage? What do you think of where we are just now and what we should be doing there, Chris?
Yeah, I think you're spot on, Bill. I think you've hit the nail on the head with that one. I think teams know how desperate we are to get other players at the moment, and they are taking advantage of that one. I think you will start to see more and more players go out as we approach the end of the window, because I think that a lot of managers will say that's where a lot of the business is done, is at that point when people start making snap decisions and snap judgments. So I think we will get them off the books, and I think credit to Thelwell for that, because previously we've not had that model where we can get players off the book and things, and it seems to be we've paid them off in the past, which has been absolutely crazy, or the money we've had for certain players. And I take when Todd Cantwell left at the time was just absolutely incredible, how poor we negotiated those ones. So I really do hope that a lot of the work not being done, Billy, has been because we're hard negotiating with a lot of teams at the moment, and we're putting a harder stance in for that. I take two, the ones you touched on. Let me start by Igaman first of all. Igaman for me, I said in last night's pod, and I'll stand by it, his head's not there for Rangers at the moment, I don't think. As much as I would love Igaman to be here for this season, and I think that's where he should be, I think for his development, playing at Rangers again for another season would be tremendous for him, and then look to get a move after that. I just think his head's turned. I don't see the situation with injury keeping him out that long. I think there was more to that we're probably been led to believe. I think that was more to do with negotiations and teams coming in for him and his head being turned. I think he was brought back because Russell Martin seen that we needed him back. We needed something different, especially with the results that were coming in. I think that's why he was brought back into the fold. When he's there, don't get me wrong, Igaman is, on his day, he's probably the top striker we have at Rangers at the moment. But can we say 100% that he's fully there? I don't think he is. And I think we've seen that in his performances, Billy. Raskin, second one. If I take Raskin, for me, I thought Raskin would have been away by now. Not that I want him to be away, but I thought someone would have come in and taken him and put a big money bid in. I think at the start of the window, we were hearing Aston Villa were the main suitors for him, and they were going to put a big money bid in. We know that people have been talking to him. Russell Martin's been clear on that people have been talking to his agent, and that's maybe turned his head a little bit. Fair play to Raskin, though, because I think in the last 2 or 3 games, he has really got his head down, and he's been probably the most outstanding performer for Rangers. So something has maybe changed in that aspect of it. Could he, though, be, as you say, when it gets to that little bit of desperation time, could he be one, if the bid comes in towards the end of the window, is he one that Rangers could afford to turn down? I don't think they could. I think they would need to take it, especially if we don't make Champions League football. I think the owners would probably look at that as being one that we could make a profit on pretty quickly and make a good profit. But again, look, the other one I would say, Jeff De Going, that was from what we're hearing, really good profit as well. I think, Billy, keep me right in this one, but the rumours got about 6.5 million, I think, with add-ons, I think is what they're talking about. So if that's the amount, I think
What
we'll
we're
win a watch
hearing.
with that one. Yeah. So I think we'll win a really good watch with that one. And I think, look, if that's the kind of player trading model the Rangers are after at the moment, then look, who are we to criticise it? I mean, let's go with it. But I just think we could get to the point where if some of these players haven't left by the end of the window, we could be in that desperation mode, and I think that's where Rangers just need to be careful about the business to do at that point in time. But look, it's great to see some of the players we wanted to go. It's great to see them finally going. The only one, I think somebody said it in the comments, I was just having a quick look at it, Cifuentes, that one for me has to happen as well. And I know there's talk he's going to Toronto in the MLS sort of thing. So that would be another good one. Get him off the wage, because again, he was on a pretty wage from what we're rumoured to believe when he came in, especially with the hype that Bill set him up for. So yeah, it's good to see the business getting done. But I would still like to see Billy maybe three or four more coming in. I think we need that strength in debt, which we don't have. So if we can get them off the books and get some more new ones, then I think we've been in a really good place.
That sounds fair. I think we want to be careful with who are we to criticise. The pods will be half the length of it.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting. The Cifuentes one, I'm disappointed because I thought of all the Rangers players who were signed in recent years, he had the coolest nickname. I thought Seafool just sounded great. He sounded like Absolutely. a silky South American, and he may well be for another club. It's interesting though. Talking about signings, I'd get Jefty's agent signed. I'd get him on
as the negotiator.
I mean, if those are the figures, brilliant. I must admit that one really has surprised me. But good. I think good to get him out. I've seemed to be in the minority here. I've never been blown away. I think he started off looking like a really good player, and to me, it looks like maybe someone who's got all the physical attributes to be a cracking left back, and people have seen that and they've brought him through. But for me, he kind of lacks defensive awareness. He gets absolutely lost or passed at times in a way that a natural defender should never be. So I'm not, again, no harm. He did fine, but after that initial sort of like impressive period, I'm struggling to remember him doing much. And people talk about him being good going forward, and I suppose he's better going forward. But I don't remember many standout moments where you think, oh, if he does that every week, we've won a watch here. I think in terms of the transfer business, very interesting to see what happens with Raskin and Igaman, because I get the impression from what Russell Martin said about European qualification that he's talked to the 49ers and Europa League was par. That was a benchmark, because I think he actually said we get a free hit. He effectively wants to that effect that we get a free hit at the Champions League. So I think reading between the lines, and it's kind of what we do as Rangers fans, I wonder if he's looked at Igaman and Raskin, and Igaman's the player he'd like to sell because he thinks he doesn't fit the system. Problem we've got is that, like you say, Chris, if a big money offer comes in for either of them, they're gone, and the window is creeping shut. So I hope we've got a plan A, B, and C in terms of replacements, because I would not like to go into the season with Raskin suddenly whipped out of that squad, because he has been a difference maker already. Igaman, I think, is Dr. Turgeman still available? I think he was the guy that was being moved.
Last night, I think that was Billy. I think that was confirmed last night that he's now off the radar. So I don't think Turgeman is there anymore, and that's a shame, because I think he'd have been great at Rangers. He would have been a perfect profile for us. So, and a replacement for Igaman at that point as well, I think. But yeah, I think that one's done and dusted. And Billy, it's a point I was wanting to make though, as well, just about this. So to your point there around having an A, B, and C, I think Rangers do have an A, B, and C. My issue with the A, B, and C that they've got as the backups just now is that it seems to all be coming from down south and in those leagues that they are familiar with. I think you can see how quickly they can get the job done with those type of players from those leagues, but we don't seem to be getting the job done with anyone out with those leagues. And I think that for me is a real worry at the moment, because we all said at the time we knew that Thelwell would look and use his contacts down south, and I think that's been really clear. That's what he has been doing. He's been using that contact, using the market. Russell Martin, coming from that market as well, has probably help that situation because he can speak to some of those players. We can't continue to use that market. We need to look further afield as Rangers at the moment. And I think the likes of Turgeman, there was another striker, his name slipped my mind at the moment, who we're looking at as well. And we can't seem to move those ones on. The Noble Mendy one that slipped, we hear that was because of the medical issues. But again, was it, or was there something else there? I just feel as if we can't seem to get those deals done, and that's frustrating. And I think Rangers really need to, if they're going to really improve their sides and really bring in quality, and I think we spoke last night about maybe marquee signings, I think that has to come out of another league and not from English Championship, English League One, because I think we've probably exhausted that market to the best of its ability at the moment.
Well, it's interesting, actually, when you're talking about Turgeman, I was thinking that the delay was we were waiting to sell before we paid for him.
Mm-hmm.
But it is an interesting point you make that we seem to be much more plugged in and able to get these deals done very quickly down south. And I wonder, when you talk about Noble Mendy, people are kind of putting two and two together because that's a couple of deals have fallen through, and people are wondering why. And that kind of speaks to what you're saying, because we don't know for definite what the cause was, but it makes you wonder if the intelligence, for want of a better term, that we have on players in England is that much better. And suddenly when we're dealing with players overseas, we're getting surprises maybe in the medicals, or we're hitting difficulties in terms of the completing the deal for likes of Turgeman. It will be, it's going to be quite an exciting end to the transfer window. That said, we still have some football to play, and St Mirren on Sunday, to move on to that, is, I mean, St Mirren on a Sunday's hardly want to quicken the pulse at the best of times, but given a recent form against them, given where we are in the league, given the midweek result, it's difficult to recall a Rangers manager been under this much pressure since the last one and the one before. So what are your thoughts? I mean, in terms of what you're expecting and what you're hoping from on Sunday, what would you like to see with the team? And do you think Russell Martin's going to shake things up a bit? What do you think he's going to do, in terms of winning the game on Sunday, which, let's be honest, that's just non-negotiable, and with a view to then playing on the Wednesday and having that Champions League playoff. So how do you think Sunday's looking to shape up then, Chris?
I think Martin is in real trouble at the moment, Billy. I think, and I think he knows that himself just now. I would like to see it shaken up a little bit. I would like to see Asgard come in and start on Sunday. And I think I would like, and I know maybe touching this, but I would like to see Asgard in there with Cameron and Raskin as the middle three. Is who I'd like to see in that one. That's what I'd like to see. I don't think we'll get that though. I think Russell Martin just now is going to turn to the players that he's going to rely on the most, I think, or the ones that he think will do the job to try and get it over the line. Sunday's going to be a tough game. I'm really looking forward to seeing it, because I'm really looking forward to seeing the reaction from midweek, Billy. I want to see how the players react to that. They're under pressure now, the players, and it's obviously been away from Ibrox and been away from sometimes the pressure that can go on the players at home when it's not going well. They tend to find it a different level when they go away from home. It's not as pressurised from a fan's point of view, and you tend to find that actually they step in and they do okay. I think Sunday's going to be a really tight game. St Mirren, I don't think we beat them last season at all, in any time we played them. I think they're a really, really tough side. They're setting up really well. They're physical, they're aggressive, they get in your face quite a bit. And I don't see any reason why they won't be doing that to us next week, especially given the result they had last week against Hearts in the Cup, and they've obviously won in penalties and things. I can only see it being a really, really tough game. I'm hoping Rangers will take the win and the 3 points, and if they are, I think it'll be the odd goal they win by. I'm looking at this though to say, if he doesn't win, that's a whole manner of pressure that's going to go in. And I even take that, Billy, if I say if they end up drawing on Sunday as well, I think that the pressure just intensifies tenfold. So for me, this is a must-win game for them. And it's a must-win game for some of these players if they want to win over the Rangers fans, because the Rangers fans are crying out for success. They're crying out to see something in this team. And as you said, over the last couple of managers, you want these teams to succeed. You want these to be good. And we had all that optimism until I think the point where Russell Martin was appointed, and then that seemed to go out the window. So we've tried to give it a chance, and the fans haven't through enough already. I think Sunday for me, if we don't win that, and as I said, I include a draw in that. If we pick up a draw, if we get beat, I think that for me would be a really final straw for a lot of the Rangers fans. And then at that point in time, you know how the story goes. It shouldn't take too long from there. Rangers though have got an opportunity here, Billy. I think if they can go out and put a performance in, if they can go out and try and do all the things that Russell Martin has been saying, on the front foot, aggressive, fast passing, fast movement, if they can go and do all of that and come away with a convincing win on Sunday at a tough ground, and let's be honest, everyone will see it's a tough ground. If they can do that, it gives that wee bit of optimism going into Wednesday night, and it gives even more optimism going into next weekend as well. So I think there's a lot in the line for Sunday, and probably, I won't say probably, I hope Russell Martin realises how big this game is on Sunday, and he's not got his eye on maybe Wednesday night or the following week. I just really hope he pays it the attention it's due, and I hope the players realise as well that this is massive just now. And if we don't come through it, then they need to take all the criticism that's going to come off the back of that, because if they think it's been bad over the last couple of weeks, it will get worse if it doesn't get any better points wise.
It's funny. I think you're right. I think Russell Martin does realise. I think you can tell in recent pressers he's getting that wee bit clippy, which to me tends to suggest that he's feeling a wee bit of pressure. You're also hearing him talking about, you know, his family, checking if he's okay and he's enjoying the role, and it's like, you know, buckle up. You know, you're like 6 or 7 games in. What I do, I mean. The problem I think we have like a wee bit just now, the world we live in, and the way people kind of tend to kind of view things, is you get an awful lot of false binaries. And at the moment, if you don't want Russell Martin run out of town, then you're a happy clapper. I think there is a middle ground, which is where I'm at just now, which is I didn't want Russell Martin in. I wasn't enthusiastic when he came in, but once he came in, you know what the project is. The best will in the world, we have to give it some time. You know, the notion that you're going to bring in all these new players, younger players, haven't played together before, our older players haven't played this system. Other teams are going to apply pressure because they know that the fault lines are there and that we haven't got it bedded in, and that it's just going to start clicking. I think it is maybe a wee bit naive on the sort of the part of fans to hope for that. We always say, and we had this with Clement, we always say it's a project and we need to give him patience. We don't really mean that, though. What we mean is it's a project and we'll give him patience as long as we keep winning and we're still in the league and we don't get knocked out the cups and we have a good run in Europe. And you go, well, that's just a good season. That's not. So what I will say, though, is I have a degree of sympathy for Martin. I think he's suffering a little bit from the sins of previous regimes. I think because it feels like we're 18 months into a rebuild, people have had enough. They're scunnered and they want to see progress. The problem is he's not 18 months into rebuild, but he's kind of getting the flack for that. And I think you're right, Chris. I think anything less than a win at the weekends, and it's just going to be, just because of the way that the modern world and social media, it's just going to be a constant sort of loop of this thing till we start putting a few wins together. We're just going to keep getting this. Unlike you, I'm thinking it more likely a squeaky 2-1 would be more likely the weekend. I would love to see us have a big win, but I think in the last 10 games, between the teams, I think St Mirren have scored 10 and we've scored 21. So like that's where I'm getting that from. Literally just like half of it. In terms of how that goes, I'm St Mirren haven't scored this season. I think they're one of the only 2 teams in the league, along with Aberdeen, who haven't actually scored. So I'm hoping that plays to our favour. But it has got the look of they will know. They will know we're under pressure. They will know that just running about and closing down space and making things difficult for us will really ramp up the pressure. And be interested just to get your take on one thing. Like Joe Rothwell, he doesn't seem to be able to play more than 70 minutes in a game. One of the things we are missing, in my opinion, in this stage of the rebuild is experienced players who can form a leadership group, or God help us, I think Russell Martin's calling it the committee. It's like very, yeah. Anyway, but basically a group of senior pros who, when we go a goal down against Bruges in a game, can run round and settle the young players and make sure it doesn't become 2 and 3 as we saw the other night. Who can tell them, like 20 minutes into a game at Celtic Park, don't worry, this will settle down. Just keep doing what you're doing, and we'll get a chance to play. Rothwell was one of those players. I think Connor Cody was going to be one of those players. Moreno could be one of those players. But Rothwell at the moment, for a senior pro who was brought in with a bit of fanfare, and he can't play 90 minutes and he's drifting out the picture, does that concern you?
Absolutely. I've been very open and honest with my thoughts on Rothwell. I don't think he's fit at the moment. I really don't. I think he's getting... If things were going better, I don't think you'd be seeing Rothwell in as many games he's played at the moment. I think he'd be given time. There was a picture the other day, Billy, that was circling social media of him in a Rangers jersey, and it wasn't the most flattering for him at that point. And you look at yourself and you say, as an athlete that Rangers players should be, that's not what you want to see. And I think anyone who's seen that picture will know what I'm talking about. For me, Rothwell, I think I've seen a lot of him last season, Billy, and football is something that you watch and at the end day out, and my wife would tell me I watch too much of it at the moment. And last season, watching that championship and how he was, I thought when he came to Rangers, I thought this guy's going to be a really, really decent player, and I still think he will. I'm not writing him off at the moment. I think he'll come really good, and I think he's got that experience on his shoulders that we need. The last time we had that experience was Stephen Davis type scenario, and I'm not for a second saying he's in Stephen Davis's level or comparing him at all, but just to try and give that comparison around the experience on the shoulders you need. Rangers don't have that at the moment, and the squad as a whole. We need that level of experience. Tav and Suter for me, and Butland, I think, who's all been captains at certain points in time this season, they're not ones for grabbing the players and during the pitch and telling them to get on with it and really trying to cheer them up. The only one I really seen do that, I think, was Raskin when he was given the opportunity. And I think Raskin for me would be a cracking leader if Rangers gave him the opportunity to do so. So that does concern me, but it really concerns me because Rangers need that in the likes of the Old Firm games and the European games and the tough games away at Pittodrie and Easter Road and Tynecastle. You need that leadership to be able to get you over the line on occasions where you're getting absolutely battered from pillar to post and you end up sneaking a 1-0, 2-0 here and there. That's what you need at Rangers at the moment, and we just don't seem to have that. And that's a poor show on Rangers recruitment, because that should be in there. And I think anyone who is of a Scottish mindset, from a Rangers perspective, will say that the team needs a Scottish blend through that. We don't. I know we've got Cameron there. I know we've got Barrett there and stuff. Those guys are too young at the moment. They don't have that mindset, I think, for Rangers just now, in terms of let's take that leadership aspect on. So we miss it. It's a tough one just now. Rothwell, absolutely for me, Billy, will become someone I think who'll be quite good in the coming weeks and months. I'm just disappointed he's came here and not been up to speed in terms of where he needs to be. But I think when he does get up to speed, I think he could be a player who'll be really important for us and someone who the Rangers fans will take to once he's up and running. But it will be interesting. It will be interesting to see. Just on someone's point there, I think Thomas is saying in the comments, don't think Barron will make it at Rangers. I'm honest, I don't want to say this. I think he's absolutely spot on. I think Barron, for me, will be someone who will go out and loan before the end of the window. And I think at that point, unless he has an absolute top season wherever he goes to, I wouldn't see Barron coming back at Rangers. I just think his time, unfortunately, is not there. And the fact that Cameron seems to be getting a lot of starts over him would suggest that that's not one that Russell Martin sees as someone going forward for Rangers.
It's funny, actually, when Barron's name came up, I've pretty much exactly what you were saying there. I think he's come in, he's run about, he's tried. Whether he lacks quality or he's been told to do certain things, he gets the ball and recycles it. But you've already seen with like Cameron coming in, he gets the ball and he makes a run and he makes an incisive pass, or he scores a goal. He doesn't just run about, he actually makes a difference. And for me, Cameron's one of the reasons why I think you can see Barron probably isn't going to make it, because Cameron may or may not make it to Rangers, but he's come in and made the impact that suggests he might have a career. And, when we see him in the team, we're going, right, this is what he brings. It'd be a shame, but I'm with you on that. I think that's the case. And it was interesting. We had another, I think it was Stephen Renton maybe was saying, was just that I literally was going, I wonder if is Joe Rothwell just going to be one of these players we're getting him just as he's starting to crest the hill of his career. And he said basically he thinks he's an EFL player in decline. Hopefully not, but I do look at Rothwell, and I'm over in Sweden here and go to quite a few handball games, because it's kind of like football, but with like more shots and like goals and stuff. So you get like 28 games and stuff. He's built more like a handball player, So I'm not saying that he's not a football player, but he's kind of got that, that sort of like breadth of shoulders, like. I wonder if he will start to slow down now he's at a certain age. So before I'm kind of looking to move on to European adventures next week, just to touch on those before we wind up. What's your prediction for the weekend? I'm going 2-1. I'm going in the stats 2-1 Rangers.
Yeah, I think you're right. Weekend, I think, will be a tough one, really. And I think we're looking, it's going to be a close game, right? And I know I said I would like to see them coming out, and some people have challenged me on some of the things I said about fast passing and movement. What I mean by that is that's the things that Martin's saying he would love to see. And we would all love to see that. Are we going to get that on Sunday at St Mirren? I don't think we will. I don't think we'll see it, right? So I think Sunday's going to be a really tight game. I think it's going to be, as I said, the odd goal maybe in 3 that you're right, we'll probably settle it. So I would take a 2-1 right now, Billy. I'd take a 1-0 right now if I could as well. I would do that. Last minute 1-0 goal. Look, any win for me would be good for Rangers on Sunday. And I think, but if they are going to get the win, I don't see it being a really comfortable day. I think it's going to be tough. And I think Rangers are going to need to really, really work for the points on Sunday. And I hope, Billy, at that point, if they do get the win and they get a bit of optimism from it, it then leads on nicely into Wednesday night. I think if you're looking at Wednesday, for me, this is the proverbial free hit for Rangers, because nobody's expecting them to do anything here. Nobody's expecting them to go through. 3-0, you'd be saying it's over. 3-1 gives you a bit of hope. The potential, it could have been 3-2 if that goal had been given rather than chopped off. You're then saying all the hope's still there. It's a real free hit for Rangers. They can go out, and for me, if you were Martin, you would be turning around saying that's the game you want to see everything that he's been talking about in terms of the fast passing, the movement, the directness, the aggressiveness. That's where you want to see that coming into the fold. I think if Rangers can get an early goal over in Bruges, it sets it up really, really nicely, and anything can happen at that point in time. My worry would be the gaps that we leave at the back, and my worry is that whole man marking situation, because there is no man mark at zonal, and you've seen obviously the gaps that we gave away, not just against Bruges, but against even teams like Dundee and Alloa. The chances were given away from corners and free kicks and things, so that worries me really to a high extent, Billy. I think that's going to be a really tough one. But as I said, if Rangers can get the first goal on Wednesday night over there, you just never know. And I think, I'm trying to remember, was it the other way around? Was it Bruges with Salzburg? They were down a couple of goals at that point, and they came back. So anything can happen in these games, especially only been a couple of goals. And look, Rangers, all they need to do, 2-0, take it the extra time and see what happens at that point. And you just never know where it's going to go. But I think Rangers need to score first over Bruges in order to have any sort of chance to progress with it. If Bruges score first, I think it's game over. I think the heads will go down at that point, and it will be game over. So, the first goal on Wednesday night is going to be really vital, as will be the lineup as well. It depends again who puts in there. You've got to go with that aggression. I think Rothwell will be in next Wednesday. Maybe not on Sunday. I don't see him starting on Sunday, but I think he'll put him in on Wednesday. And I think he'll he'll go all for it. He'll go all out for it, for obviously getting those goals on Wednesday. But look, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough however we look at it, and you could put 15 players in that park, and I think it would still be tough for Wednesday night at the moment. So yeah, we'll see. But Rangers need to get the first goal, Billy, for me.
Agreed. I'm just looking some of the comments here. Neil McLean saying he's mildly displeased that we've lost out in Turgeman. And yeah, same here. I was kind of looking forward to getting him in. Seem to have a bit of a troublemaker in the feed. Some guy called Doug, baseball cap guy. He's saying I might need to get him muted. He says, I don't think you can advocate Raskin for captain, but then say Barron and Cameron are too young. Raskin's only 1 year older. I think the point we're making there, Doug, is like Raskin's better and he's shown leadership qualities. So Barron, solid. Cameron, promising and a bit more. Raskin's a better player than both of them at the current stage, and he does look like a guy who, maybe it's just because he's been in the team longer, he's confident going around getting a hold of people and saying, smarten up. So, but yeah, I think we'll stick Doug on mute. Only kidding, Doug. It's interesting. On the game on Wednesday, one of the things that I find exciting but terrifying is, like Russell Martin was saying, the last couple of European games, so that other teams have been the team chasing us, and now we're the ones doing the chasing. And going, and we packed them out of Europe because they were having to come after us, and we could play. The thought of this team going after another team and leaving the sort of gaps at the back that we've seen in some of the games, especially a team like Bruges, because unlike a lot of people, I don't think Bruges took their foot off the gas the other night. I think Bruges are just a more experienced and knitted team who had the gear they could go up. They couldn't play that tempo the first 20 minutes for 90 minutes. They didn't need to. They could go to a place that our young team wasn't able to. And by the time our heads had cleared, we were 3-0 down. Yeah. Once the game settled down, though, we were at home, and it was much of a muchness. In the second half, we traded chances. If we get that first goal, a wee bit of pressure goes on them. I'm not optimistic. I think Bruges it's not what we're capable of. Bruges just don't look like, they look like a seasoned European team. They don't look like a team that's going to crack if they go a goal down. So I'm actually interested. It's almost as a supporter, it's a free hit. It's like, okay, we're pretty much out. What can you do? Russell Martin's got, I wonder if his mind works like this, but he's got to have it in mind that if he does end up opening up and taking a doing, he's actually going to just make things even worse. I think he will have to be careful. I'm conscious of time. I just wanted to get your take on two things. One's going to be the score, a prediction for that. But the other one is just quickly to touch on, do you think with Europe the way it is just now, do you think Celtic's result this week is actually going to help us in the Old Firm game? Because they're actually going to have to go and play a proper game in Europe and travel just before they play us. And that was kind of funny to see this week.
It was, and I think that scoreline surprised everyone, Billy, and some funny comments last night around why that scoreline happened. I heard a few different things on social media, so that absolutely that gave me a really good chuckle last night when I was listening to some of the stuff that was being said. But do you know what I think for me is Europe at this moment in time? There's been some really, really strange results across Europe in the qualifying games. Teams that you would not expect to put performances in and get wins have been doing that right from the first qualifying round. So, in a way, was it a major surprise what happened last night? On Wednesday night, probably not. But at the same time, to answer your question, will it impact on the Old Firm? I think the only thing that I can think will impact in that game is the travel, Billy, for them. I think that's a journey you don't want to be doing right before you go and play in a big game like that on the Sunday. So I think that will do it. I don't think the result will have any major bearing on how they come out against us. I think we were saying a few weeks back, Billy, and I think we were on one of the pods together to say we always thought this Rangers team, if they kept playing the way they were going, was potentially going to take quite a hiding. And I think that was there for last Wednesday. That was opened. But to your point, and I think you're right, it wasn't that they took their foot off the gas, Club Brugge. I think, as you say, they just couldn't maintain that for the whole 90 minutes, and that's why obviously Rangers get back into it. My worry at the moment is if we play that at home the exact same way we did against Brugge, then unfortunately that other team have got players who can really hurt us. And Rangers, for me, really need to have a different tactic in that one, because I don't think we can go and play the same. I would like to see us play with 3 centre backs in that game. I think that would be, for me, at home, the better set up with your 2 wing backs in there as well. But he needs to be able to change it. And I think I said this in the podcast the other night. My big concern for Russell Martin is that when you look at Wednesday night and you look at going down 2-0, okay, I can understand that 1-0, maybe 2-0, you don't change things up. But see, when you go 3-0 down, the first thing he should have done was change either the tactics or the personnel to try and do something. I was even more astonished that we got to half time and the same players come back out the second half, Billy. That, I think, just the atmosphere at that point in time was away going with it. And if that happens again, my worry is he's not going to change it. And I think he has to be able to change it. And if he doesn't, he'll be in trouble.
It's a very interesting point, actually. I'm glad you brought that up, because in an interview after that game, he was asked how frustrating it was. And he actually said it's the most frustrating feeling in the world, because once the game started, you can't really do anything. You can't. And I was like, whoa, good managers, time and again, good managers make in-game changes. It's part of the skill set. But he almost seemed to be suggesting that as a manager, he sets the team up as this entity, and it's going to do what it does for 45 minutes. And then maybe at half time, he can reset. And I don't understand why you can have a plan to change things at 60 minutes and you can't have contingencies to change things after 30 minutes if it's not working out. So, yeah, I must admit that gave us a bit of a shiver down the spine when it was like, well, what do you mean once the game starts, there's nothing you can do? That's part of your job. And we know, because we've seen managers, Gio and people like that, who were good at doing wee tweaks. And sometimes you weren't even sure what he was doing. Then you go, now I see it. He's supposed to be smarter than us. And if we're seeing things in the game, Chris, you're saying change something. It was pretty astonishing to see a team go 3 goals down after 20 minutes. Which, let's be honest, if you scale that up, at 20 minutes, we're looking at a 13-0. Of course, that's not what was going to happen. Yeah. But as a manager, to be looking at that after 20 minutes and go, okay, we'll just see how it settles down. That's one of the biggest red flags. I'm really glad you flagged that up. So on that, I'm aware where we're at there. On that terrifying portent of doom, what's your prediction for Wednesday?
I think I'd love to see us get through, Billy. I would love to see us get back and have the Champions League experience again at Ibrox for this season. But if I'm being realistic, I can't see it. I really can't. I think the first goal, as I said, will be crucial. But for me, I think Rangers will lose out in the end, unfortunately. As much as I hate to say that, I think it's just too big a task for us. And I would be predicting, because of how much I think we're going to need to open up and try and go for the goals, I think it's going to be a 3-1 Bruges on the night again. I don't see it being anything other than that. I think we will open up and that will be our downfall. Hopefully not. Hopefully we can get the win that we need, or even just take it to extra time and penalties and then show a good account of ourselves. I think that's the main thing. See if Rangers go out there and show a good account of themselves and it runs it close. I think Russell Martin gets a bit of leeway there for that if we can go and do that. But if we can't do that and it's similar to Wednesday night, then I think, again, and I hate to say it, but I think he's in real trouble, and I think the players will find it a whole load of pressure going into the Sunday game against Celtic after that. I think that will be even worse for them. So yeah, let's hope for the win, but I'm not seeing it at the moment, Billy.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's I think Wednesday's about giving us reasons to be hopeful for the future. I find it difficult to see us not losing 2-1 or 3-1. I'll go 2-1 just to be a wee bit different. But like you say, with a performance that gives us optimism going into the Celtic game. So with that, I will wind things up. I'll thank Billy for starting off the pod, and he's now somewhere getting his car fixed, I believe. Thank Chris for the excellent insight as always. I don't see our sponsors off to the match I go, but they're normally down the bottom, and I think if you use the code Journal10 you get 10% off. I've had a look, they have some cracking stuff on there, so go give them a nosy and see some of the 1980 and 1985 tops that they've got on there, and see if I can do this without crashing the internet this time. But just remember, every night is a Rangers Journal night. Thanks, guys.